Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Concept Sketching class. This is demo 3 of assignment 5. I hope everybody had a great weekend with this beautiful, beautiful rain and not so great weather. Hopefully you had fun inside. Fun fact, I recently learned that you can now play Cards Against Humanity with your friends online. Maybe that's something for you guys to check out. I think I'm going to try and play that with some of my friends sometime soon because I'm going stir crazy, as I'm sure many of us are. Okay, so let's dive in. Today is March 30th, and for the warm-up we're going to be doing an orthographic challenge. And then the lesson, hopefully we kind of breeze right through. Would really love for it to be a little bit shorter than last time. We're going to be looking at how to create an ergonomic or organic handle. Then we're going to be moving on and showing you trigger switches and buttons. And then lastly, we're going to do a quick thing on transparency. Note up front, transparency is not super critical in my opinion. It's pretty rare that I think we use transparent things, but we're going to go into it just a little bit anyways. Lastly, in terms of housekeeping stuff, your assignment 5, the handle object, is due Monday, April 6th. So that's 1 week from today. So hopefully you guys are plugging right along with that. And hopefully some of the content from this will be additionally helpful. So let's jump in. We are going to be, first of all, checking out this orthographic challenge. So here is the stuff that we're going to be, just double checking that I'm recording still, that we're going to be sketching. So I'm totally fine with you, if you want to pause and try and attempt this on your own, that'd be absolutely great. This should be pretty easy for you guys, especially at this point in the semester with all the things that we've done. What I really want to emphasize here is line weight. How does the line weight change? So if you're going to do it on your own, now's a good time to pause, emphasize the line weight. Okay, so in the event that you are either done, if you did the orthographic challenge by yourself, feel free to fast forward a bit to the end. Otherwise, I am going to do this with you guys this time. So let's dive in. I've already got a cube kind of set up to make this a little bit faster. So basically, I'm going to go straight into the construction of this. We got a line in here. And so real quick, imagine that on this face, we're going to be putting a large ellipse that goes past these two edges. So I'm just going to draw a fourth of it. So it'd be kind of like, if I were doing that, it'd be something like this. So I'm just going to do it myself, kind of like that. And then there's another edge over there. And then these just continue all the way back. I should probably let you guys continue taking a look. Oh, I need more space for my hand. Okay, there's a really rough cube. And then one last thing that I need to do is make sure that these have some mass, and they go like that along their vanishing points. Okay, so that should have been really easy for you guys. Now let's talk specifically about line weight. So I'm gonna bump up my line weight and make it pretty dramatic. When I said pretty dramatic, I meant it. That's better. Okay. So let's go over everything that could have air behind it or space behind it. Oh, that's a little bad. That's better. Okay. So now, I forgot a line. Right there. Okay. So now, how does line weight play in these areas? Well, we know that, let's call this object A, and this will be object B. So object A is kind of over object B, but then on this area over here, object B is kind of in front of object A. So you guys should have put a leading edge line here, here of course, and then little one here. This is where it gets a little bit more interesting. So what you guys should have done is use a gradual change from leading edge to that surface, just a regular surface change. And then same thing, well, not quite. This would actually just be leading edge the whole time. Okay, so it should look, and then I'll throw some actually, I'll just throw this over here. That was bad. Okay, so should look something like that. And again, really emphasizing right here how this gradually changes. You guys are definitely going to encounter this in your handle object when materials are swooping, changing, you know, doing the things and all that stuff. So let me actually do one more quick thing. So let's look at one more time. I'm going to use the thing. You guys don't have to follow along with this. Let's pretend we have an object like this. And there's a hole in it. And then there's a button or something coming out of it. Okay. Okay. So let's do the same exercise again, or I'm just going to show you. So my button looks really bad. Oh boy. Okay, that makes me feel better. I was looking a little rough. Okay, so line weight. Let's put in our silhouette, our outside, our leading edge lines. Okay, there's the first one. And then we know this whole button is gonna have 1, 2. Okay, and now, so this is where, again, it becomes really important for these lines to gradually get darker and thicker as they go around. Okay, so keep that in mind. Actually, let's do one more. Make these, let's go really thin this time. I'll work my way outside in, okay? What if the button is flush with the outside? And swoosh. Okay. Okay, cool. So, if we were to put some, wow, that was really bad. Surface contour lines. It would look like that. Okay, so what do we do? So this I just want to make this look nice for you guys. It's nice and understandable. Okay. And now, so we know that there is some space behind this edge. So that's definitely going to be leading edge. And then the same thing goes back here, right? Because you can see that there's that break. So let's work on that. Boom, boom. Okay, and then again, this is where it's going to get gradual. So we'll start here, and then boom. Sweet. And if you want to put a little bit of these on there, that works too. Cool. Okay, sweet. So again, just really make sure that you're getting these line weights right, and that they're communicated properly, because you're going to encounter a lot of this kind of stuff with triggers, buttons, switches, etc. Okay, so we just did that. Now let's, we're already on to creating an organic handle. So let's look at this. Okay, I just grabbed this from the web, and it has a nice funky looking handle. So let's try and understand this thing. So let's see, from the side, we're just gonna think about the handle. So it looks kind of like it comes in quite a bit and then comes out. And then there's this little thing at an angle. It has a dramatic one of these, and then it gets kind of thin. Boom. Okay. And now, importantly, it has that cutout for what looks to be kind of like the trigger. Maybe something kind of like that. Okay. And then from a top view, or like a cutaway view from right there, it looks pretty square. Except maybe the back is like a little bit more rounded. It looks kind of like this to me. I could be wrong. That's my guess. Okay, let's take a stab at this. So I would say I'm gonna think about this in terms of like a rectangular prism and not a cylinder because of that profile that we looked at. Okay, so here's a rough thingamajig. And now I would say, just a little bit. Okay, this is not a compositional example, just construction. So, like we, had talked about in class, we can use our surface lines. So I'm going to make this line here first. Comes out and down. Big swoop. Okay. Okay. And then I'm going to make sure I keep in mind that angle. So let's say it comes up to about here. Boom. Okay. So now I have an idea of where that plane is. And I know that the top, like around here, is way smaller than that. So I can keep that in mind. And know that this probably needs to end somewhere about there. But then we're pretty much going to use this like whole area. Okay. And then actually it kind of looks like this thing, like if we were to draw, there's like this, oops, actually let's do this. I'm going to draw surface contour line, my bad. Okay, so I think it's actually pretty straight, which is helpful for us. So basically, maybe this really isn't as small as I thought, based on that observation about that surface contour line. Okay, maybe we'll just bring it in a little bit. Okay, so there's that bottom part. Make sure we follow our vanishing points. Okay, now let's draw our back line. You know, it comes in like this pretty intensely, and it has a big bump. And it comes back, and then straightens out. Okay, so, and of course we're imagining that like the rest of the hair dryer or whatever is like up here, and we're just going to ignore it because we're just working on the handle. So, okay, now if we think that the edges are pretty flat for the most part, we can take that into consideration and never, so when we're about to do this like outside line, which would essentially be the equivalent of like this here in perspective, we need to know never to go further than this line that we just made, because that would suggest that there isn't material there, but there is. So I think I'm gonna kind of do my best guess and say something kind of like that. So see how I never went past that reference line, this construction line right here, and you would do the same you would do the same, but keep in mind if you had like, so if this is a front view, if you had a handle that did something like that, and then the top view is like that or something, the bottom view is like that, that would not be the case. You would do it a little bit differently. So just keep that in mind. But again, here's this for me. And then, okay, here's our side. That's where we need to end. Okay, so this one's tricky. I would say maybe something like that. Okay, so now we've got our outline of our handle. And we know it goes kind of like this because it continues going down here. We'll just let those lines run away. Let's put in the little, it's not really a trigger, it's just a button. Okay, so it's got like a semicircular cutout. So we can imagine that semicircle on what we would consider maybe the right plane, if that's the right plane, and then the front plane would be here, and then the top plane would be like that. Okay, and then it's kind of got a little bit, this is again where you're gonna have to just kind of look at the object, and I'm just gonna put in like a big semicircle, kind of like that. I think that'll work. So then this surface contour line will actually go like that. And then there is a button in there. And I would say it probably, likely, so if here's the surface contour line, if you can almost imagine that just keeping going instead of going back around like that, I bet you those two are really like almost in the same like plane or surface or whatever. So why that's relevant is because I'm going to use this line as a reference to create that button. And then it's going to get a little bit bigger. That might be a little, that's okay. This is just a construction example. Okay, so let's now look at what this should look like. Okay. I'm gonna make sure this is really like kind of smoother and nicer for you all to see. And then draw backside over here. Okay. Then let's work on down here. Nice. Okay. And then we'll come back to doing a little bit more on the line weight and stuff. Let's put in this thing here. Okay. Okay. Now I think this button actually needed to be a little smaller, so let's fix it now. And then I think it might be something kind of like that. Probably more like that. Yeah, that feels better. Okay, now let's go back to our line weights. So this button sticks out quite a lot. It's gonna get gradually bigger, gradually smaller. Okay, and then let's make sure that this button actually shows a material change. So we'll put that hole into the plastic. Sweet. And now let's just throw down our surface contour lines. We've got one here, comes back, goes in, goes back, out, and then down, way down. There we go. And then, although, let's actually not go past that, because that would mean something that's wrong. Okay, boom. And then this, I think, just goes straight down. And then maybe if we want, we could put in another one there. Cool. So there's our handle. That's one way to construct an ergonomic handle. So again, to just kind of cover the process, start with your, okay. Start with your box or your volume, so you know your proportion and your scale, etc. 2, one of the, like, you guys don't need to know this, but the technical term of like what we did by starting with the top profile and then making the bottom profile. So we made this face and then we made that face on there. That's called lofting. You guys don't have to know that, but just for fun, I'll tell you anyways. So we lofted so we had the top profile, the bottom profile, and then we built in the surface contour lines and whatnot. So we essentially created guides. And then 3, we add the details, like the button and that kind of thing. So that's one way that you guys can do it. If we were to put drop shadow, probably something kind of like that. And again, drop shadows don't need to be perfect by any means. Don't want them to be perfect. They're just kind of grounding your object. Yeah, that doesn't go too bad. Cool. Okay, so done with that. All right, so we've already gone through creating an organic handle. Now let's go into triggers, switches, and buttons. We've already done this a little bit. So if you guys would like to go ahead and attempt this one by yourself, this would probably be one of the more challenging orthographic things that we've done before. So it'd be really cool if you guys wanted to pause and try it yourself. I'm going to go through and we're going to do it together. So it's totally fine if you want to just tag along with me. Okay, so if you are going to pause, now would be a good time. Okay, so let's do this pretty much the right way. Ooh. Okay, I'm going to build my volume. So I'm starting off really light with my construction lines. Make sure that those don't get in the way of later drawing. Okay, so those proportions might be a little funky, but that's okay. Next, let's put this pill in. So I know there's like a rectangular prism, and that's there. And then there's an ellipse. Okay, something kind of like that. Okay, and then if we're thinking about the surface contour lines, this like drops down. So we need another, that's the edge of the ellipse there, comes in. Okay, so now we have our box. Now let's start building the actual like button. Okay, so the button, if like this is the button and this is the housing, and we can call this space in here the track where the button slides. We're gonna start building the button, and we know that it's just a little bit smaller than the hole that we created. So we could say, here's the edge, here's the edge. So we're gonna do the top face with that button first, and then I'm going to extrude it down, and then it curves around and disappears behind that wall. Okay, and then let's make sure we draw the back side, even though it's going to disappear because there's that detail. Okay, sweet. Now let's think about this like weird, so we've got this crazy curviness here, but then it's like generally round from this side. So what could we say? I would say, think about creating a reference that goes upwards. So I'm gonna draw, that's a little tall. Something kind of like that. That represents this, that feature or that like quality about it. And now let's think about this here. And I'm going to use a surface contour line. So we know that comes out kind of like that. And it'll go up. And then we're going to go something kind of like that. I know that'll apply here too. I'm just going to bring that around town. Yeah, something like that. Doesn't feel too bad. Okay, and then it looks like the last thing that we need to create is, we could call this track 2, I guess. This little space in here. So let's do that. We'll use that vanishing line that goes to this vanishing point way over there. And then we'll just, we know that it's only a certain depth, so it does have a face at the bottom, so we can draw that in too. Okay, cool. And this is like pretty much good. So let's go ahead and darken it all the way. I'm showing you guys, I'm being a bad example. One line. Okay, and now we know that'll disappear behind there. Let's work on the button next. Okay, and this will run parallel to that edge. For that backside, there it comes down. Okay. And then because of the height of this, we lose sight of that back edge where the two sides come together. So now that's gone. Disappeared. Oh, that wasn't so good. Okay, and then I'll put in that where the extrusion, the cut stops. Put this in there. Boom. Look at that. Pretty much done. Okay, let's go over the line weight now. This is what's really important to show the right information. I'll come back to this and put more detail in later. And then, okay, start over here. Oh, and that one. Okay, jump around a little bit. Here, here, and then here's a, oh, this one, yeah, okay, and now let's look at these, after this, okay, and this one. Let's look at these gradual changes. So here, there is space behind that face, but over here, there is not. So this is going to be a gradual change. Boom. Same thing over here. Start here, start getting bigger. Cool. Okay. That actually looks pretty good. Let's put in our, and again, if you're confused at where these references should go, use your X technique. Like that. Oops. It's gonna go there. And we might see that, we might not. And then this is gonna go, imagine that keep going. It's gonna be about there. And this is where your line weight's super important. It's kind of hard to tell right now the difference between that surface contour line and these surface lines. We give those just a little bit more heft to them. They're more discernible. Okay, and that's going to disappear back there. And then let's just do, boom. And then that will come out here and there. And then think about this going back that way. Might be about there. Think about this one. And it looks like we see it back there. Awesome. This whole part here is kind of not good. What should that really look like? Oh yeah, okay, so I messed that up big time. Let's fix it. And gradual, back to there. Okay, that feels a little bit better. Sorry, going a little bit fast, because I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time. So, make sure we're keeping these things consistent. Drop in a drop shadow. And you guys get the picture. You understand? Callouts. Okay. One other thing that you could do, if you wanted to go like a little bit above or make this a little bit more complicated, let me give us some room here to think, is what if you wanted a little like dramatic surface thing? You could do something like this. And now you've got like a little finger rest. So it'd almost be like, you'd have to add like a little thing there, and then that would affect this profile here, because it would probably then look something more like that. But yeah, that'd probably be comfy from like a finger standpoint, like what your finger rests up against when you press this thing. Oh, you know what? Speaking of pressing, let's take a minute to talk about arrows. Okay, so let's say you wanted, this wouldn't be the best arrow in the world, but let's say you wanted an arrow to go like that. How would we build that? Okay, so one way you could do it is think about a reference line here, and you're really going to be using a plane like this. I'm going to put an, think about an ellipse being on that plane right there, being kind of big. And then I'm going to use my vanishing lines. That was bad. Better. Okay, it's a little bigger than I was thinking. Let's say we want the point there. I'm gonna use our vanishing lines, something like that. And then maybe I want to gradually taper off around there. I don't love that. But that is one thing that you guys could do if you wanted. Start throwing like constructed arrows on your stuff. So then let's give that some mass. Okay, there's one thing that you could do. Sweet. Let's jump back. Oops. Okay. And lastly, let's talk about transparency for just a little bit. Okay. So I want to sketch with you guys. This is just going to be, we're going to draw, and I'm going to make sure that this looks pretty nice in the beginning. So I'm going to use the feature just to speed this up too. Okay. That might be a little too dramatic for me. Okay, cool. Let's say we have this volume, and now let's just say that this is like a clear plastic, right? And now I'm gonna put something, a new, like opaque plastic inside of it. And then it's gonna have two parts. or two faces at least. Let's do something like that. Okay, so remember, this is clear, part A, and then inside of that is part B, and let's just imagine that it's going to be gray, opaque. Okay, so and this would be maybe applicable for like a vacuum cleaner or something. I know we kind of did that last time, but let's just continue with that example. Excuse me. So one thing that we should keep in mind about transparent materials is that we can see all of their faces. So if we're thinking about part A from as a cross section, we would be able to see its thickness, right? Like this represents the, let's say it's plastic again, of course it's plastic, whatever, that this is the thickness. And so really when we're drawing it in perspective, keeping that in mind, we would basically see you would draw two cylinders, one inside the other, because the current one that we've drawn, let's just say that's the outside face. Now we essentially need to draw the inside face. So now when something's transparent, we need to draw both the outside of that material's thickness and the inside. I hope that kind of made sense. So let's start constructing the inside. So I'm going to say, okay, there's maybe the material's thickness. So now there's, okay, how should I explain this? So we just put an ellipse that's on the top face. We just drew this face, but we drew it on that plane, if that makes sense. When in reality, we need to drop that ellipse a little bit lower because of the thickness from there to there. I feel bad. I hope this isn't like insanely confusing. So let me undo. Okay. So really, if this is the thickness of this wall here to here, now we need to drop it to show what the thickness of the top of the plastic part is. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so let's draw that ellipse. That'll contact that point. Okay. Sweet. Now I'm going to draw the walls. And then I'm going to say, here's that thickness of the wall, and here's the thickness of the bottom face. Something maybe kind of like that. Okay, so now, here we go, we have the, like, two faces, or I guess it would sort of be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, actually, sorry, cylinders have 3 faces, 1, 2, 3, and then the inner 4, 5, 6. We have the 6 faces drawn of the cylinder. Hopefully that makes sense. This is where the downside of like in-person classes gets a little tough, or very noticeable, because no one can raise their hand and say, Nick, that doesn't make any freaking sense. Okay. So, what would we do now? So let's talk about line weight now. So if I were to go and add my line weight to the sketch, definitely use all of the line weight principles that we've talked about before to describe the outside of the transparent part. Like so. So now we have a leading edge line on the outside, and we have surface contour lines to describe the rest. Now, normally we would add these leading edge line, the heaviest line thickness, so remember we have surface contour lines, we have our contour lines, and then we have our leading edge lines. Normally we would put a leading edge line here. So now, because object part B is inside part A, we're actually going to reduce the line weight that we would normally use. So we still need to use the same 3 line weight rule, just like we would normally, but this time we're going to drop them down just a little bit, and the reason is because of transparency. So we need to be able to say there's something between our eyes and part B, and it's part A. So again, don't use the same line thickness here as you would here, or here, or here. Just drop it down a little bit. So you could almost say, in the case with transparency, almost imagine, oops, sorry, I shouldn't do that. Almost imagine that there's like a, okay, let's say this is 1, 2, and 3. Imagine there's like a 2.5, a 1.5, and maybe a 0.5. So it'd be like, oops, really, really thin. Kind of thin. So these would be for your, oops, sorry, opaque objects, and these would be for your transparent. Okay, hopefully that makes some sense. And then let's talk too about how a lot of the time light plays into effect. We haven't talked about shading in this class, but right now, talking about transparency, it is a little bit more important. And I would say you could kind of take a look at, like, if you have glass objects in your house and reference what's happening with them. Excuse me. If I were to go the next step to try and show that this object is transparent, I would probably show the way that, say, light is kind of like bending around this object. Kind of like that, and then maybe even one sort of little light detail back there. Yeah, something kind of like this. Let's try and do some practices over here. That doesn't look awesome though. Let's see. Let's do a little attempt. Oops. I didn't break anything, if that's what you guys were wondering. Let's copy this for a second and do a little test. Some designers really like to add like big stylistic kind of things where, like, for example, if we were to remove these details, or at least make them there to be fewer of them, excuse me. Some people like some kind of big swoopy stuff going on. Like that. To show that there's like a big, like a reflection or something kind of sweeping across this object. One thing that I would warn you if you are interested in exploring something like that is don't let it be distracting, because this like reflection is probably a lot less important than the other information that you're communicating, right? But if you want to play with it too, like, that's fine. Let's see, let's do another quick. Another thing that you could do, let's say you were working with something like glass that was highly, highly reflective and had pretty much like a polished surface. You could also look at doing like some kind of like very large reflections or things like that. Okay, so there's a few examples. Let's do real quick. Let's do almost something like a pencil sharpener. So there's my transparent object, and then it has like a base that it sits on, and then it comes up, maybe like that. So that top part is opaque, and then maybe there's the thing in there. Okay. So what would we do here? Okay, I hadn't planned on doing this little pencil sharpener thing. It just popped into my head, so bear with me. So one thing that I would definitely start with, again, is showing that there's multiple faces. So you could start by doing and this probably wouldn't be here because we want it to be curved. And then this comes back in like that. There's a line here, there's a line there. And see, that already actually doesn't look too bad. Let me give you guys something a little bit cleaner to look at. Okay. Gradual. Okay. Now let's not forget though, so we drew the transparent part. So if this is part A, and this is B. We drew the inside of B, but now don't forget about A also comes through. It'd probably be something kind of like that. Maybe even 3 to represent the inside face of B, the outside face of B, and then this contour of part A as well. Okay. So there's something. And then if you wanted to do like a highlight, see, I don't personally like that much. Maybe something like that. Okay. Well, there's something that you guys can play with, at least. I would also maybe check online, see if there's anything that catches your fancy there for how someone else is doing it. This transparency isn't something that I sketch very much, and haven't done it in a really long time. But if you guys want to attempt it, I would say start with sketching the 2 volumes, the outside face and the inside face of that. And then if you want to add anything after that, that's just, stuff for show. Cool. Okay. And that was the end of everything that I wanted to get through. So once more, you have 1 week until assignment 5 is due. Let us know if you have any questions or publish your questions on this YouTube video. Thanks, everybody.